Tesla just announced a bunch of exciting things at their annual shareholder meeting.
We're going to go through the top 3 things next on In Depth.
You know what? I just came up with 2 more.
Now, this is normally where we would talk about a sponsor of this channel, but I want to take a moment to talk about a product that has not paid to be mentioned here. It's EVject.
Did you know that when you plug in your Tesla to charge, you can't drive away unless you unplug it first?
This can lead to some scary stuff where you could be stuck in an unpleasant situation where you're trapped in your car by someone or something which keeps you from safely unplugging.
EVject came up with a solution to this problem. Their patented system allows you to drive away after you stop charging from your app or screen, turning what could be a scary situation into one where you can simply drive away and leave.
They're currently accepting pre-orders, and we've worked out a deal with them to get you 30% off.
Use our link below to get 30% off now.
And thank you to EVject for solving a problem that this community faces and giving peace of mind to EV drivers.
All right, but let's get back to the shareholder meeting, which I can't believe I'm saying because I thought that a shareholder meeting is normally like,
No, it's really exciting. Right off the bat, J.B. Strobel, one of Tesla's founders, was welcomed back to Tesla, this time as a board member.
Remember, he left to go found Redwood Materials, which is a battery recycling company.
You might be saying, okay, so now he's on the board. What does the board do for Tesla? Like, he's not going to be doing engineering if he's on the board. That's what an engineer does.
I think what's so important here is that he works really well with Elon, and this gives him an excuse to be with Elon more often.
So this is just like a play date for Elon and JB kind of thing?
It's not a bad thing if it is, but no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that JB is the whole reason that Elon was drawn in to work at Tesla. Remember, Elon may have been a founder, but JB was actually one of the founders. And Elon has said many times now that he wishes that he had just founded Tesla with JB. And that's because JB knows everything there is to know about batteries and recycling them. And if you carry that another step forward, that means that he knows all about the supply chain for batteries. And if you carry that one step forward, batteries, let's admit it here, they are the key for everything that Tesla's doing. Energy storage, cars, and as we're going to see, something else. And so the faster and cheaper you can make them, the faster you win.
All right, our second thing here, an annual shareholder meeting is an opportunity for the shareholders in a company to propose decisions about how the company gets run.
So votes are counted based on the number of shares instead of by individuals.
And so let's just talk a little bit about how shareholder proposals work. So just because I, am a shareholder in a company, meaning that I own at least one share, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to get a proposal in front of the board.
Yeah, it depends on the company's rules, but usually you have to have enough shareholder votes behind you to get something, nominated to talk about at the board meeting.
And so this is a way for different voices to be heard at the shareholder meeting.
Right.
Now, the board of a company can also weigh in on shareholder proposals, and they can either express support or recommend voting against them. And oftentimes this determines how a majority of shareholders vote.
Yeah, in this shareholder meeting, one of the proposals was put forth by Courtney Wicks, the executive director of Investor Advocates for Social Justice, to do an independent report on Tesla's cobalt supply chain.
Now, this relates to human rights abuses in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Basically, there's cobalt mining. It's called artisanal mines where, there could be child labor, there could be even slave labor and lots of horrible human rights abuses. Obviously, Tesla doesn't want to be connected to that. And so
it's one of the biggest arguments against EVs is that, you're using cobalt, which uses slave labor and kids' labor, so it's awful.
Right. Ignoring oil and all of their
right.
coups and human, whatever, shove that all to the side. A lot of anti-climate activists push towards this stuff, but it is a legitimate concern, cobalt and the Congo and that kind of thing. Now, the proposal was not recommended by the board, not a big surprise, and it was not accepted by the shareholder vote. But later on in the shareholder meeting, Elon said this.
You know what? We will do a third-party audit. So, in fact, we'll put a webcam on the mine. And if anybody sees any children, please let us know.
So, my question
I love it, actually. I love the fact that he said, let's put a webcam on there. Just watch it. You tell me if something goes wrong.
But my question is, can he do that? Because the shareholders just voted to not do that.
I would say in most other companies, he'd be open to like a shareholder lawsuit because you're right.
I think he's still open to that.
But I think this shows you the uniqueness of Tesla. I think everyone's going to back what Elon just said. And I think it's really smart because, it's going to cost them some money. But this way, it's going to just prove once and for all that their supply chain is clean. And that's what all of us shareholders want.
It's true. And I think that maybe Elon knows a little bit more than we do. Big surprise. He's the CEO of the company. That maybe their cobalt supply isn't tainted with child labor. And
she brought up a good point, which is, because this is a mineral that you can't really trace where it came from, it is easy to intermingle. Mm-hmm. That is the one point that I think she may have a case about, which is your mine itself might be run properly, but if you're also accepting little shipments off the side, those might be from bad mines. And so hopefully this will, make sure that there is none of that going on.
And I do think that it is the stronger tack to take. I can totally see why shareholders aren't going to be for it. There's really no reason for a shareholder to be for it. Outside of like some much bigger thing. But as a shareholder in a company, you probably wouldn't want that.
Well, and also by Elon saying that he'll be in charge of it, now he's not being forced to do it from the language of the shareholder meeting. He can come forward with his proposal because, look, they were going to choose some third-party auditors. And this way, Elon may not use all third-party auditors. He might use his own technology. I think putting webcams is a really smart way of doing it.
I mean, he did say third-party. Specifically when he said it. So
I'm sure that'll be part of it.
But this means that he gets to kind of pick the third party.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that helps. Because to me, nothing would be worse than getting back a report that's like, maybe.
Right.
Which it seems likely.
If this goes the way I hope it does, which is that they show that they have a clean supply chain, then this is going to really put Tesla head and shoulders above their competition because they're going to be able to say, hey, yeah, we do use some cobalt, but it's clean.
That would shut up a lot of arguments online. All right, let's move on to point number 3.
YouTuber Meet Kevin brought up advertising again to Elon.
Man, this has been an ongoing thing since Tesla started.
Right? I mean, Tesla doesn't advertise.
And for a long time, Elon said it was because they were severely supply limited, and it wouldn't make any sense to pay money to increase demand when you can't meet that demand.
But I really like the way Kevin put it. He said, why not advertise these things that you've told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
And I mean, we've felt this way for years.
I mean, that's why we do the show.
Exactly. I mean, it's not necessarily that I wanted Tesla to advertise for years, but I've been sick of just like the average Joes on the street having not the first clue of anything to do with Tesla. You'd ask them about Tesla and they'd be like, I don't know, isn't it like a $90,000 car for rich people? And don't you have to like charge it up for 12 hours on a road trip? And you can't drive it that far? And like all this stuff, which is just not true.
Isn't it an Italian company? And look, media has had less than an incentive to cover Tesla positively. And that's because a healthy part of their budget comes straight from other car companies in the form of advertising dollars.
Yeah. In 2021, GM spent $2.7 billion on advertising.
Yeah, Ford spent $1.9 billion.
Stellantis spent $1.7 billion. I mean, look at this chart. It's an insane amount of money.
So, I mean, are you going to bite the hand that feeds and be like, Tesla's awesome, let me tell you all about it, when GM is giving you all this money? No, you're not.
And on top of that, oil companies spent $1.3 billion on advertising between 2008 and 2018 to lobby on climate change policy.
Yeah, that's not to advertise about how good their oil is for your car. That's just their climate change policy stuff.
And this has almost certainly led to a lot of misinformation and FUD over the years that honestly makes owning a Tesla or being a Tesla fan kind of suck, because you just keep running into people who are just like, you're dumb for liking Tesla, because I heard this one thing that they explode, and I think that's stupid, and you're dumb. And it's like, do I want to sit here and like educate this person for the 9 billionth time? Right. Or do I just want to go on with my life? And I feel like everyone really liked this idea.
Yeah, well, and Elon really listened.
I think I hear your sort of larger point, which is that there are amazing features and functionality about Teslas that people just don't know about. And although there's obviously a lot of people that follow, like, say, the Tesla account and the my account, whatever, on Twitter, to some degree, it is preaching to the choir. And the choir is already convinced. You know what? I believe in taking suggestions, so we'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
And there was a big applause. I mean, again, I think this goes back to not having to be an educator for most people. Most people, they don't want to have to tell you every last thing about something. They want you to just kind of be enthusiastic about it and not be so negative on it.
And here's where I think there's a value to people in a room. Remember that, everyone? People in a room? Because when you're on Twitter or other social media and people give you thumbs up and likes and stuff, that's great, but it's not the same as when Elon heard this.
Okay. Okay. All right, I wasn't expecting that level of enthusiasm. But okay, it sounds like our shareholders, if I read between the lines, subtle as it is, are saying we should probably do some advertising. Okay, very well. All right.
And that's how he reacted, which was, oh, wow, he really got it. And you can't get that without being in a room full of people who are telling you what they want.
And I know that the argument about Tesla advertising for the longest time made sense, right? It completely made sense. Why would you advertise? They can't make enough cars.
Right.
They're getting to the point where they can make enough cars.
Right.
And the wider world has been so skewed against Tesla. I don't know. Are we going to start to run into these people who now need to start buying the cars if they're going to continue making cars and they're not going to want to buy them?
No, it's a good point. I think Elon thought, and we all thought by now, that we would have all kind of educated the next group. But I think that the media has done a great job of fudding everyone to death. And so there's a large group of people, the majority of people on Earth, who don't know the things that we know. And look, I kind of agree with Meet Kevin, and I agree with Elon now. I think it's a good idea for Tesla to advertise if they do it right.
What do you mean by that?
So, you know how regular car companies advertise, like, look at me driving my really cool car.
Oh, and it's just like, you'll never feel more alive. Come on down to the something sales event.
Right.
0% financing for 3 months.
That's not what I want Tesla to do. I want them to do what you're talking about, which is the education part. Look, everyone knows that Tesla's a sexy car. You just have to look at it. I want them to educate on the parts that most people are misunderstanding now. If they do that right, I think that the advertising would be well worth it.
Because, I mean, there is a difference between advertising that's just like, do you want to feel something in your life? And like, I don't know, Billy Mays doing like an OxyClean commercial or, Flex Seal. And you're just you're going like, oh, this will do something.
I know you're going to think I'm weird here, but I agree. I think it should be like an OxyClean commercial, which was basically, it showed you this product that unless someone demonstrated it to you, you didn't really know what it did. I'm not saying you liked that product or wanted to buy it, but
it's a great product.
But until you understand like what Flex Seal is, and look, a lot of people have bought Flex Seal because they saw, oh man, it's rubber in a can. Like if that's what you want. So here is where I think Tesla should do the same thing. Now, should they use, Billy Mays style? Probably not. But like, I think you should be showing how the car works.
Certain aspects, certain pain points that I think people just have no clue about when it comes to supercharging, autopilot, even some of the full self-driving features, all of this stuff, or like even just price.
Well, and a lot of stuff they've already made, a lot of the videos that they've already made, you could just probably repackage them. You just need a cool voice. So I would recommend Robert Downey Jr. And I would put this onto places that people are actually going to see it. So maybe you do have to pay to put it on to Twitter.
And here's the thing. Elon is the CEO of Twitter now, and I think that that's a huge reason why he knows that he can advertise now.
Yeah.
First of all, he's forced to learn about advertising because he is now the CEO of Twitter, so he's learned all of the important parts of advertising, and now he has a perfect platform to start advertising on.
Well, and I just want to say, hand me the EV Jack again.
Okay.
Like, if we don't advertise this, if we don't tell people how cool this product is
and explain
how it works, you would never hear about it and you might get stuck in your car. So advertising has a value, and that's where I think Elon up until now has been right. Hey, we don't need to. We've got a huge demand, but he has been playing around with the prices a lot lately. Maybe you wouldn't have to play around with the prices so much if there was just a huge backlog demand.
Well, and also so many people have been, complaining about, how much flack they get for owning a Tesla.
Right.
And, I know that some of it is because like Elon's crazy on Twitter, but another part of it is just that like most people have no clue what a Tesla is.
Right.
All they see it as is a status symbol, which like for some people is a huge positive. It's like, well, it's a status symbol. But for other people, it's like, I just wanted a car, man. I didn't want a whole bunch of baggage to come with it.
Right.
I just wanted a car that has the same total cost of ownership as a Toyota, Camry, and is good for the environment.
I mean, if I were Tesla, I would just start with safety. I would just put out ads that talk about it being the #1 safest car in America.
All right, so let's move on to number 4. Here's what Elon said.
So, and people always want to know what our next product is. But this is not the time to. We obviously need to have a proper dedicated product launch. If I were to guess, I would say of these 2 new products, just these 2 new products alone, I would say we will probably make. Obviously, this is just Elon's guess. So don't sue me. But Elon's guess is that that will probably make in excess of 5 million units a year of these 2 models combined. So.
Now, before we get to the second product that he was referring to,
Optimus!
okay, before we talk about that, I want to talk about this image.
What could that be?
Maybe the Model 2? Maybe
Robotaxi.
the Robotaxi?
Yeah.
So this is the first, aside from like a sheet, this is the first like actual glimpse that we've gotten of this car. And I think it's pretty safe to say that this is going to be the Robotaxi vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why would you make a Model 2 if it's not also going to be the Robotaxi?
Right.
And Elon didn't talk much about it during the presentation, but later on during the Q&A, Elon got a question about this, and I think most people had kind of checked out by the time that this got asked, but Elon's answer was amazing. Check it out.
What is going to be the margin for Tesla then? Because you're obviously thinking you're going to sell much more FSD then, right? You may have a system in place of robotaxis. You may have a cut with fleets. So did you do any projections what the automotive peak margin for Tesla could be in 2 years, 5 years, and the same for energy?
Well, I mean, this is definitely, we're in sort of highly speculative territory here. But obviously, if you've got a car that costs the same and has, say, I don't know, a 20 or 25% margin, and suddenly is able to be used 5 times as much, then you might have 80% margins, and the revenue would increase several-fold. That's why I say it's probably going to be the biggest asset value step change in history of Earth. Yeah.
And I think he's sandbagging. He said a 5-fold increase in usage. And I just want you to think about the average car. It sits there for, 95% of the day unused.
Just parked.
So there's a 20x potential there to get used more, right?
But he said a 5 times increase.
Right. So to me, he's way underutilizing the car. I think he's being very conservative, which is great to be. But I think there's way more than 5 hours of car usage that's going to take place with the Robotaxi. Let's just say he's off by a factor of 2. Let's say it gets used 10 hours a day. So that's still
10 times the utilization.
Right. And that would still be less than half the day. So I think while I think it sounds great, 80% margins and, 5x fold in revenue, I think it's actually going to be more.
That's really exciting. And now let's get to Tesla Bot.
Yes.
All right. So Elon showed us this clip. Let's check it out.
As full self-driving gets closer and closer to generalized real-world AI, that same software is transferable to a humanoid robot. Just like humans can obviously walk around with their arms and legs, but we can drive a car, fly a plane, steer a boat, ride a horse. If you have a generalized understanding, or if you have generalized real-world AI, which is what we are developing for full self-driving, it can be transferred to basically anything. So Optimus will use the same FSD computer as the car. And the Optimus stuff is I think extremely underrated. Because people just cannot comprehend the consequences. Now, obviously, we need to make sure that we don't have a Terminator scenario. That's very important. It's all fun and games until Terminator shows up. But if you say, like, if you have had a generalized humanoid robot, what would be the effective ratio of humanoid robots to humans? Because I think basically everyone would want one. And maybe people would want more than one, which means the actual demand for something like Optimus, if it really works, which it will, is, I don't know, I mean, 10 billion units? It's some crazy number. It might be 20 billion units. If the ratio is, say, 2 to 1 on people, humanoid robots versus people, it might actually be, it's some very big number is what I'm saying. And a number vastly in excess of the number of cars. So my prediction is that Tesla's long-term value will be, a majority of the long-term value will be Optimus. And that prediction I'm very confident of. So, anyway.
I just want you to remember that a little while ago, Tesla didn't even have anybody working on robots. This is so brand new, and this footage was just from a few days ago. And if we think about this, Elon has told us in the past that energy will be bigger than the car part of Tesla.
And by energy, you mean energy storage. So
yep, and generation. Yep.
So Megapack, solar, Gigapack,
Power
walls, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's their energy division. He thinks that that's going to be bigger than their car component.
And now he's saying that Optimus will be bigger than that. And yet everyone still thinks of Tesla as a car company. All the analysts who follow it are all car analysts.
Right. And I mean, I do want to just look at this is such a teaser, just such a little glimpse at what they're working on. But they're working on it.
Yeah, and basically said this is the two next products. He didn't say Optimus is someday 20 years from now. He said there's going to be a Robotaxi and there's going to be Optimus. He didn't come right out and say that, but that's what he said.
And I think that a lot of people think they see these robots just kind of walking around really slowly, and they're like, that's nothing compared to like Boston Dynamics. They're doing backflips, they're dancing, they're picking up boxes.
I urge you to watch the latest interview with Lex Friedman with Robert Plater, who's the CEO of Boston Dynamics. Great conversation, but what Robert Plater said was that basically Boston Dynamics is working on robots to move boxes around. That's a big market for them. Amazon and all these companies need boxes moved around. That's what they're doing. He doesn't really want to work on a hand, and he also doesn't want to work on artificial general intelligence. Any of that stuff they're doing, for the most part, they're subbing that out. So to me, he just left the space wide open for Tesla to come in and make an AGI robot. Now, Elon did joke there about you don't want it to be a Terminator robot, and I hope they accomplish that because I don't want that either. But yeah, it's easy to look at this robot and go like, I don't want one of those. But as soon as they can do some very basic tasks, mowing your lawn, maybe doing some dinner, cooking,
even just doing like dishes, and not, you know, like what a dishwasher could do, but like, you know, pots and pans, and then kind of cleaning your house, or just digging a trench in your backyard.
There you go. You're going to want one.
Painting your house.
And then as each robot gets to know how to do a new skill, the whole fleet will know it. So it's like if every over-the-air update, it's like, now it can do your taxes.
Change your tires. It can, all sorts of things that you don't want to do, and you normally have to either pay somebody to do, or you have to just kind of go out there and do it, could now be accomplished by a robot that maybe either lives at your house or that you rent.
And did you catch the numbers? He said we're going to make 5 million of both. So he's not talking about making a small batch of 100 or 200. He's going to make a lot of robotaxis and a lot of Tesla bots.
And you might be saying, well, I don't know if I want one of these in my house. That's fine. You don't have to have one in your house. They're going to put them in the factories and put them to work in the factories before anyone gets to take one home.
Exactly.
And do you know what that does to Tesla's margins on their cars? Do you know what that does? when he's already talking about an increase in margins, an increase in revenue of 5 times.
And look, we've talked about this before. You can go back and watch some of our other videos about Tesla Bot in particular, because it's a lot less stuff than a car. So it's going to do a lot of utility for you. It has a lot of value, and yet it's a lot lighter, so there's less materials in it. It's going to have a huge margin. Oh my God. I am not a financial advisor. So do not take my advice alone when it comes to whether you want to invest in Tesla or not, but I am so bullish after seeing this. Elon was so pumped. He was so excited. He had so much energy for what's coming in the future. He even just started off the meeting that way. So I don't know. I say this a lot. I've never been more bullish on Tesla than I am today.
Yeah. And no surprise as to why. Now, there was a little bit of discussion about Cybertruck. We're not going to get into that here because we really have heard the same thing over and over again.
It's coming.
It's coming the end of this year.
Yeah.
There will be Cybertrucks on the road. That's going to be its own huge ripple through the cultural zeitgeist.
No, what an amazing thing that they don't even need to rely on that. Most companies will be focusing just on their next product launch, and he's so far beyond that.
Yeah. Overall, I thought this was an amazing shareholder meeting. I'm so glad to have JB back on the team.
Yeah.
And I am, like you said, more bullish than ever on Tesla.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Now you know.